sign. Stop laughing. What? Be professional, please.
Come on.
So, Jessica, I just signed with an agent, and there's been a lot of talk about what makes a good agent. So I figured I'd ask you some questions about how I can interact and communicate with an agent once I've signed with them. Start over. What can I expect when I first sign with an agent? Do I need to sign or fill any forms out?
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
First of all, I heard your agent is pretty good.
She's all right.
His agent, by the way, is Naomi Davis at BookEnds. What can you expect? Most agencies work with a contract, and I'm sure you already signed that.
I did, yes.
Some don't, but most do. And as terms of anything else other than the contract, I think it's going to depend on the agency. We tend to want people to sign up like their tax forms and things like that, but some agencies might wait until a contract with the publisher is signed.
Right.
So I don't know that I would have any specific expectations of I didn't get that and I should have or anything like that.
Right, so then once you sign with an agent, you'll just dive right in. I know Naomi does revisions with me. She did pretty extensive revisions on both the sentence level and the developmental level. So is that something everyone can expect?
Not necessarily. I remember years ago talking with a colleague who had switched over from editorial to agency, and someone I really respected greatly and still do. I consider her a mentor, and one of the things she told me is she really doesn't do a lot of editing because that was one of the reasons she left editorial. I think almost every agent is going to give you some level of feedback and revisions. What you can expect of how much is going to depend on the agent and going to depend on what the agent feels your book needs.
So to some extent, I should keep myself open as far as how much of the book I'm going to rewrite.
Yeah.
So it's not a red flag if I don't receive revision notes?
No. I mean, it's not a red flag if you don't receive revision notes. However, I guess I would be cautious of an agent who has zero feedback for you.
Right.
Especially on, a full manuscript or something like that. I would expect there might be something that they have for you, but I wouldn't necessarily run screaming if they have nothing.
So I know it probably varies per genre. So like I write picture books, so they can come a little quicker, my revision notes, but what's an appropriate amount of time that I should be waiting for those notes?
I think it really depends on the agent's workload, the agent's workload in that moment. I tend to tell my client, and I think that if the agent doesn't say you'll expect revisions from me in such and such time, then these are the questions that you need to ask. From the beginning, you need to establish with your agent the lines of communication and what you expect.
Right.
So once you sign, if your agent just says great, and you're thinking, well, what's next? You need to ask.
And these are all good questions for the call.
Yes, exactly. Now, I could sign an author and have, a pretty clear plate and be able to dive in that week. I could have also received 3 manuscripts from clients that week, and I need to order them appropriately, and might say, listen, once we sign, I'll be able to get to it. I tend to try to inform my clients of when I will get to it, not when I will complete it, because the time it takes to do the revisions can vary. So I might say I'm going to start in 2 weeks, that kind of thing, but I won't necessarily say I will finish in 4 weeks. So
That's good to know.
So, but if you're wondering when am I going to get revisions, then you need to ask, and if it didn't happen in the call, then when you return the contract, then I think you need to say, hey, my contract's attached, what can I expect next, or when will I be receiving revisions, or whatever it is you need to ask.
So in that time, say my book is perfect, it can go right out on submission. No, I know. I know. Okay, say I just finished revisions. What should I be doing? Is there anything I should be doing leading up to submission? Do I write a pitch?
Well, I think you need to have that conversation with the agent.
Right.
What else do you need from me? You have the revisions, and sometimes there might be more. I would think with a picture book, you're not going to do quite as many rounds of revisions as
Right.
maybe a full-length adult or even YA book, which is just generally longer, I never guarantee that there's only one round of revisions.
Of course, right.
So, but of course you don't want to just sit around twiddling your thumbs. So my suggestion is...
As I'm twiddling my thumbs right here. That was a call out. Next.
Don't say that. My suggestion, you could ask the agent, but the other thing is I would be coming up with ideas for what you want to be doing next. If you're already writing something, feel free to get in that. If you're doing other things to grow your writing, feel free to continue with that. But my suggestion would be come up with some ideas that when your agent's ready, you can be discussing sort of next ideas with her. Be prepared for that.
So that actually is a good spin-off question. When I'm ready, is it something that I should write and send to her, or should I send her a list of pitches on what I'm thinking of working on next, and should we collaborate on what?
Yeah, I would never advise anybody who's agented to just write a book and send it to the agent. Unless you absolutely feel that you are going to write this book no matter what your agent says, no matter how unmarketable she says, no matter how much she hates it, whatever. I would suggest that the advantage of this new relationship you have is that you have somebody to bounce all of this stuff off of. And it's not just, is that Buford? Buford does not like
Sorry.
my answer.
I can't hold that.
You have somebody to bounce the ideas off of, and not in a, is this a great idea, should I write this book way that you would with critique partners, but in that, is this marketable?
The next best move.
Yeah. How am I building my career?
Right.
What's
what
my
makes
brand?
sense as a brand, right?
Yeah.
So, a lot of authors go to conferences and they tend to meet editors that they might have had a connection with. Is it appropriate to send a list of editors that I think might be a good fit for my project? Am I overstepping any boundaries? Am I stepping on my agent's toes?
I would ask the agent. I think every agent has a different, all agents are different, which is why hopefully before you signed with Naomi, you talked with other agents and got a sense, I know you didn't, of how they worked. But, I tend to say to clients, listen, if you have an editor you've met before or know of or are interested in working with or feel that way about a certain house, you should let me know. Now's the time to let me know. Now, I could nix that. I have, most of the time, I will admit my clients have been like, I don't know anybody. Sometimes I've had a bad experience with this person. I prefer you not submit to that person. It's rare I get, can you submit to that person? Although it does happen. Then it's a conversation. It's not, I don't think you want to send to your agent, here's the list of editors, I want to see it, and I'm not going to budge from this, because the process of submitting to editors deals with a lot of different things, and it's not just what we read on Publishers Marketplace. It's what we know personally about the editors, and it could be little things like, I know for a fact that that particular editor does not respond well to a voice like yours. I know what sort of voices and writing style certain editors are attracted to, and that does go into my decision, and so that might be why that editor doesn't work. But on the other hand, you might present me with the name of an editor of somebody I hadn't thought of in a while, somebody I don't know all that well. When you've been in the business for as long as I have, you tend to have certain people that you've worked with for a long time and you like, and they stick in your head. Right. They're your go-to people. And sometimes I need somebody to say, hey, what about so-and-so? And you're like, oh, I hadn't thought about that person in a while. That's a good idea. So I would suggest you do it. I think it's the way you do it that is important.
Suggest, don't tell.
Make it part of a conversation.
Right.
Don't just drop off an email, hey, here's the editors I was thinking would be good for my book, because some agents, although I'm going to say, if you do this, you need to stop, because you shouldn't. Some agents will get their back up, like, well, this is my job. Why is the author doing my job? I'm like, oh, great, the author did my job. Now I don't have to. That's just me. But I think it's a way of like, hey, while I was researching agents, or I pay attention to the news, and these editors pop into my head, of course I, would love to hear your thoughts, but I just,
Okay.
Or there are some editors I've met at a conference who I had a good interaction with, you
And
know.
then there's always like people on Twitter and their MSWL. So I mean, I'm sure that there's a line as far as doing their job and suggesting.
Yeah. So I have a client who will sometimes email and just say, hey, have you thought about this kind of editor? Have you thought about this house or this or that? And I never mind it because it does, you know, make me think, oh, I hadn't, or makes him feel more comfortable because I can respond with, yep, that was exactly my thought process. We're on the same page.
Oh, cool.
That's what I've been doing. So it's a line of communication.
Right, and it's also a way to get into each other's head and like we're in the same area, headspace of the project. So.
Yep, exactly.
Anything else I should know about leading up to submission?
No, I think that's it. I think you're ready to go.
Great, thank you very much. I don't know how to end.
Hey Buford, don't you think everybody should subscribe to our YouTube videos? I do. They should also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and check out our website for a ton more great information just like they heard today. And of course, to find out how to become a BookEnds client.